You guys have kids, right?
Yeah.
You know, my girls were little. They used to play practical jokes on me. And
practical jokes?
Yeah. They're pretty smart about it. But one day they put glitter in my underwear.
Oof.
Yeah, pretty nuts.
I think that's a matter of perspective.
Hey, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too.
Yeah, that was fun. Patrick came down to my house last week with Brock Allen.
Mm-hmm.
We had some good food.
Gave you a touch of the pneumonia.
Yeah, a touch of the pneumonia.
I like to share.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring.
Well, anyway, yeah, Patrick has pneumonia. We're going to edit out all his coughs, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We have 5 stories today. Let's get started. What about this one about X? I thought this was interesting. That hackers hijack government and business accounts on X for crypto scams. And here's the irony. They're targeting verified accounts. So you remember that $8 a month that you paid to get that trophy, that little badge? Makes you a target.
The only person I ever cared to follow and read on X is gone. So I don't open it. I don't see it. I should delete it, but I haven't.
I'm still in X every day. Literally just trying to look for the nugget of security news that matters in there.
Yeah.
But it's getting exceedingly more difficult.
Yeah.
I use it as a megaphone, really, just to talk about the things that I'm doing. And, one way pretty much. I don't really follow anybody. Well, I do. But
Threads and some of the others, Mastodon, I don't know if they're still gaining anything or whether we're just waiting for this to die. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just nerdle along and be okay. But
I like Mastodon because it's like Twitter was in the beginning, where there wasn't crappy ads and stuff, and people aren't trying to sell Viagra and whatever. And it's just a good community. And I also like the way that Mastodon kind of federates things by topic. Like you can belong to a server that has a particular sense about it. And I like that.
There was a content creator recently that basically publicly stomped on Elon about their model for creators, their revenue model, because he said, "Hey, you should drop this on X," and Elon said, "Yeah, we'd love that." And the guy's like, "Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. I'm gonna drop it on YouTube because they pay me."
Yeah,
and I couldn't even break even on the way you do. So fix your terms, and I'll consider it. And
well, and Elon's message to his advertisers literally is go F yourself.
Yeah. So unless he fixes it through the creators, I could see him maybe doing something there, but they're hemorrhaging so much cash. I don't see that changing.
Yeah. You should stick to rockets.
So we'll see.
And cars.
Now, I can't blame, I don't think I can blame, X for this. I think this is just poor maintenance of your accounts.
No.
But I do blame them anyways.
No, I would blame them entirely. And here's why. I don't know if these accounts have multi-factor authentication or not, but what used to happen on X was you could have multi-factor authentication. And then when they switched over to this weird paid model, you couldn't have MFA anymore. And there was a period of time where a lot of accounts were super vulnerable until you paid.
Oh.
And then they switched over to, we'll do some sort of secondary authentication based on what we think you normally log in. And it's still kind of unclear. So I don't know. It's, I think they've messed around with the authentication protocol enough where, there could have been accounts. Yeah, there could have been accounts that were vulnerable for a period of time, and a lot of people have just been sitting on these. Just like we know, Mandiant's account this week was breached as well.
Yeah.
Right, and they're a big cybersecurity firm. Right. So I'm sure they had reasonable passwords, but their X account was taken over. So
ultimately, we are responsible for our own accounts, though. We need to make sure when people play stupid, platforms play stupid, we have to rally. I will confess that I shut off lockdown mode for 5 minutes today.
Oh no!
What?
I went to AT&T to get something done, and they couldn't do it while lockdown mode was on.
Oh man!
Wow!
So I turned it off for a minute, watched him like a hawk.
Yeah, of course.
And then turned it right back on. I'm still there. I'm still in the great game.
You're crazy. I couldn't live but an hour with it on. I had to shut it off. Like there were a lot of apps that just don't. YouTube doesn't work. You can't use YouTube.
Yes, it does.
No, not on mine. I try using YouTube and it just none of the videos load.
Oh, none of the malicious videos.
No. Hey, it's fine. They can track me as long as I can view the video.
Well, you can pick some apps too, like say they don't apply. They're whitelisted, but you don't have to.
All right. Shall we move on to Chrome?
Let's do it.
All right. So the headline is Google fixes 8th Chrome 0 day exploited in attacks this year. It's not the 8th 0 day.
And this was the very end.
It's the 8th exploited 0 day.
Yeah, the last time we had talked about this, and I actually had to double check this. So the last time we had talked about this was in November.
Yeah.
November 28th. Mm-hmm. There was the 7th.
Right.
Exploited 0 day that was released, and we talked to you about all of these new CVEs that had come out around manipulation of buffers and stacks and that sort of stuff.
Right.
And here again, same thing. There are some new CVEs that have come out that are being exploited in the wild that you really do want to go out and make sure you patch.
And this story is from December 20th. So it's there may be a 9th by now for all we know.
But what they're doing is they're putting a special status on a patch for something that's actually being exploited.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. This one also is around like video streaming in VoIP, if I remember correctly. So there's some sort of streaming like in codecs that has a heap buffer overrun. So
like YouTube,
go patch. Maybe YouTube. Maybe that's why my YouTube's not working. Who knows?
Aha! Lockdown knows.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Maybe I should keep it on.
How do we know that Dwayne didn't cause the 0 day?
I know, right? They just keep finding my 0 days. It's killing.
He'd be selling them. I'd be selling them.
I'm a good guy. I'm one of the white hats.
Sell them to Patrick.
Yeah. Hey, Patrick, you want to buy a 0 day?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'll take 2.
Have you guys ever been offered, this kind of thing?
Yeah, we know where to buy them.
Are you saying to sell them?
To buy them.
We know where to buy them. We know how to buy them. That's easy.
So, Carl.
Yeah.
As security researchers, if we discover 0 days, we have to properly disclose them to the companies that.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, has anybody ever come up to you and said, "Hey,
want to buy a 0 day?" No.
You want to buy a 0 day?
All the time.
Well, not like on the street.
All the time. But it's usually people joking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Joking around. Hey, I'll buy a 0 day for iPhone. You're like, go away.
It's not shopped around. It's more marketplace driven.
So it's like the dark web.
Yeah.
There are places where you can go buy them.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
There are some public places you can buy them too.
The best way to get a 0 day is to reverse engineer software yourself.
And that, my friends, is pretty nuts.
I would argue that's prettier nuts than what we were talking about before. So
pretty nuttier.
So let's say you want to go after, a Meraki, high-end Wi-Fi. You'd get a copy of it if it's firmware, which can be hard. And then you'd reverse engineer it, which takes massive skills, which Dwayne and some of our team have. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to understand what constitutes a vulnerability and how you'd exploit it.
Yeah.
And then you could develop 0 days. That's what some of these groups will do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll discover them by accident, by, trolling around. Sometimes they're looking for buffer overruns and other things.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So usually there are two ways to do it, like Patrick's talking about. One is with code analysis.
Right.
So you either have the code base or can get the code base and look it over and say, oh, well, I know this is an insecure path and this is an insecure path and the way they're using printf here is not secure and whatever it is. So that's one way to do it, and that's the easier way to do it. The harder way is what Patrick is talking about, which is, hey, it's a closed box to me, and I may be able to dump memory and look at machine code, but it's still kind of a closed box. And what you do there is you fuzz it. So you take all of the different inputs that can go into this application. So let's take, for example, a web server. Like, what's the data your browser sends to a web server every time you request a page? We know there's the page you want to request. There's the protocol you're using, whether it's HTTP or HTTPS, that's there, right?
The culture info from your machine.
Or whether it's file or FTP or whatever, culture info from your machine. The content length. the header of the browser, which can include the type of browser, the version, the operating system, the versions they support, the languages they support.
Maybe the version of HTML.
The version of HTML.
Your public IP address, which is usually your IP provider if you have a cable modem or something like that.
Whatever plugins and whatnot you have that are supported. Do I support video? Do I support, audio? Do I support location? Whatever. Like there is probably, 60 different fields that you can send in a single page request.
Yep.
That's not just, hey, give me the index page.
Right.
So, most developers don't go, hey, I'm developing this website to sell, widgets. I'm going to test every single field possible and see if the web server falls over. Nobody tests that, right? Other than pen testers who then go and try and fuzz everything, put in values that nobody was expecting.
And remind me what fuzzing is.
Send unexpected data.
Yeah, from computer science standpoint.
So it's like brushing off the glitter, kind of.
It is. But it's like adding more glitter than expected.
Oh, adding more glitter.
It's like, what's your browser? And I give you the square root of pi.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I give you color codes.
Or what's your username? And I give you, form field, variables or something along those lines. Or what language do you want the website in? And I give you SQL injection as opposed to EN. Right. So that's fuzzing, is like you try things that would work. So you understand what the baseline is. Like, they're looking for, give me a number between 1 and 10, says the website. I give it a number 3. I know what a valid response looks like. Now I test everything out. What happens when I give it an A? What happens when I give it 1,000 ones? What happens when I give it a -1? And you then start to determine what the profile of failure is. And then from there, you can say, I can actually get the server to pause for a couple seconds if I give it this input. So doing some added processing on the back end, you try and sort of black box discover what is it doing and how can I get it to do what I want it to do.
And most of the time, you're going to do that in your own system.
Right.
So that you're not exposing your techniques. So if it's like Cold Fusion website, you'd get Cold Fusion and get the version.
Install it, get it up and running. Yep. Profile the website as much as you possibly can. Get your version to be able to break and then try and exploit it on the internet.
Okay. All right. I got it. You guys want to take a break?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do that. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after these important messages. All right, we're back. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Dwayne LaFleur and Patrick Hines. You're listening to Security This Week. And 3 more stories in the news this week. It was kind of a slow week. I mean, what is all that? Are the hackers like?
We're picky.
Yeah.
There were lots of this one got hacked or this ransomware.
And what we were talking about before the show started too is like right now the security world this week is blowing up about this. Nearly 11 million SSH servers are vulnerable to the new Terrapin attack and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, we had talked about this when it came up, and I don't know if you...
In our conclusion?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you listeners haven't listened to that one,
you're like,
go back and listen to it. But yeah, honestly, it's important, but it's not as important as they're making it out to be. You have to be man in the middle. So that means you have to be in between the server and the client.
Yeah, and I think what we're talking about is there's 2 criteria, right, for how severe it is. One is how easy is it for, how vulnerable is everybody to this attack?
Yes.
And 2, if you get attacked, what can happen? How severe is it? So we're talking about a low accessibility score.
Correct.
Well, this is your Samsung TV could be used to kill you by an attacker if they're in your house and they take the cable off and they put it around your neck.
It's right next to my Samsung refrigerator and my Samsung phone.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah. But it's not incredible.
Okay.
Right, exactly. So, although you should go patch if you have an SSH server, whatever. So yeah, the security world's been kind of distracted this week.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this Know Before article.
So I like these guys.
Heads up, SMTP smuggling, how it easily circumvents your email defenses. And first of all, before you go into details, we just remind people that SMTP, Simple Mail Transport Protocol, I think it is. This is the protocol that your email client uses to send an email,
whether you know it or not,
to a server, right?
So let me talk about this one. I actually know Stu Sauerman, who's the CEO of KnowBe4. We worked together many years ago. And great company. If you're not doing email simulation, you should be. Email phishing simulation. We use it. It's a good idea.
Okay.
So the headline is SMT smuggling, how it easily circumvents your email defenses. Well, email is something that we use all the time. Right. Maybe the young kiddos don't use it as much as we old folks, but businesses use it a lot. And so one of the things that you want to prevent people from being able to do in email is impersonate you. So I don't want to get an email. I don't want my clients to get an email from Dwayne and it's not Dwayne. I don't want them to, see his email address and it actually be from someone else, because that's bad. That's called spoofing. And there's technologies like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which is specifically designed to help you prevent that from being able to happen. And they're very effective, except in this case. In this case, there are just SMTP based commands like the data command, send command, etc. That in this case they're being fuzzed. They're being given bad data. In this case, they're talking about a data command with a return and a carriage feed, and that's causing it to allow the SMTP server to just say okay, and it just takes what comes next, and it doesn't do the checks.
Right. I'm looking at this example, and it looks like when they say smuggling, they're sort of stuffing SMTP commands and data inside a message.
It seems like they're stunning the SMTP server with the data, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
It's basically like it got hit in the back of the head and it forgot to do the security steps.
Wow.
And it's been patched by Microsoft. Other big vendors should be expected, like Cisco, to do so soon.
So it boggles my mind that nobody kind of figured out when SMTP was created back in the 70s, I think it was.
Oof, yeah.
Maybe even the 60s, that this could happen. So every single email server has this vulnerability?
No. We knew this. We knew this could happen. We just didn't know it would happen. It's a 0 day. It doesn't matter whether it's 15 days or 15 years or 5 decades. Once the code's written, it's just waiting for someone to find out what the vulnerabilities are.
Yeah.
I guarantee SMTP has other vulnerabilities that no one's found, or at least no one's disclosed.
It's just how
can it exist?
Did we let this go? How do we not find this?
We'll say it
in
again
the last
next
50 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it is
years,
SMTP's been around for so long. And we've seen this with other bugs too, but SMTP's been around so long. Who's going out there to fuzz SMTP? Who's going out there to pen test SMTP as a protocol? And nobody.
In SMTP's defense, it could be that this has arisen in the last 10 years because DMARC hasn't been around for 50 years.
Sure. Yep.
These are new protocols that have been added on, and, things get put in and behaviors change. And that's the reason you have to do regression testing. You have to test again. Oh, this is secure. When your suitcase goes through security, and then if you walk out and come back in, they're supposed to check it again. They're not, we already checked that one. It's fine. It went out. It got de-safetied, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should do the same thing.
All right. So I while you guys were telling that, I went and looked it up. It was the original RFC, request for comments, for SMTP was RFC 821. I think this was the original, August 1982 by Jonathan Postel. Yeah.
RFC 821.
So he's to blame.
21.
Well, I wonder what RFC 1 was. We should have an internet. Let's put that in the RFC.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this vulnerability could have been there for a long time, but I don't think it was there originally because none of the concept of anti-spoofing was there.
Okay.
So it got added on it somewhere along the way, and no one found it. And there'll be others. There'll always be others.
It's just, I always said that, if Gmail gets hacked, I'm screwed. Like if somebody has,
you should fix that.
Well, I do. I have a huge long password and multiple factor authentication.
Hey, don't brag to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't brag to me.
All right, fine.
I know, right?
And Dwayne knows it.
Hey, just for your edification, RFC 1 was written in April.
That was for the wheel, I think.
April 7th, 1969.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That was the
spec for fire.
First RFC.
Rub two sticks together.
So it's interesting. This RFC is a summary of IMP software. Information is to be transmitted from a host to another host. So this was the first computers talking on some network.
Your RFC 1.1 was? Take the bark off the sticks.
Dixie cups and strings.
Wait, seriously, would you take the bark off the sticks? Why?
Yeah, because you get a better, more friction.
A good rub on that.
Welcome to the Boy Scout annual meeting.
I didn't
or
know
pyromaniacs or us.
Yeah, either way.
Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, this is a fascinating read, though.
I guess there's nothing to do. I mean, you know, just if you have an SMTP server, patch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to, again, this is another, it's self-serving for KnowBe4 because that's what the business they're doing, but security awareness training is key. You have to train your staff to recognize this stuff because even when the protections are in place and working, they might stop working for a month or two.
Right.
Because of things like this. And if you don't catch it and somebody clicks on the wrong thing because they think it's from Dwayne, actually, if they think it's from Dwayne, they're probably not clicking on it. But if they think it's from a coworker or a trusted vendor, then you gotta be prepared for what you don't expect. And that's the hard part. And that's where security awareness training comes in.
Okay, next story. Russian hackers wiped thousands of systems in Kyivstar attack.
Now, this is just mean.
Did I pronounce that right? Kyiv?
Yeah, Kyivstar.
Kyivstar?
So this is part of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
The Russians managed to get into Kyivstar, which is their number one, like T-Mobile cell phone. And they wiped all the core servers, which is horrible. And now this will test the backup server.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully they have backups, unless they wipe the backup servers too.
You know what? It's been almost 2 years. If they don't have backups, then what were they thinking?
Well, they may have had backups. Were they wiped as well?
I don't know. But if they didn't have offline protected backups off-site, then what were they thinking? Because they got to know they're a huge target.
Oh, no. Listen to this. We, the Salt-Spick hackers, take full responsibility for the cyber attack on Kyivstar. We destroyed 10,000 computers, more than 4,000 servers, all cloud storage and backup systems.
It's impressive. That's true.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
I hope they're wrong. I hope they're, that there's offline. Because just because you have cloud backup doesn't necessarily mean you don't have other backup. You don't have offline backup.
Wow.
And you should. Maybe that's the big takeaway here is that you can trust the cloud, you can trust a vendor, but you have to have those backup plans. I'm sorry. That was a double entendre, but
okay. So, that's if you're Kyivstar, right? You're a sitting target.
Yeah.
What if you are Patrick Hines? I mean, do you take backup tapes to your mother's house and store them in her basement or wherever?
I wouldn't say it's my mother's house, but...
Well, no, but you take them off-site?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. If nothing else, we put them in alternate data centers. The data center...
Mm-hmm.
So the best plan to have is you do regular backups.
Yeah.
You plan to take one annual backup offline and put it into the archive. So let's say the archive is Dwayne's house, Dwayne's office.
Yeah.
Is one archive, and my home office is the other archive.
Not saying it is.
Not saying it is. And we do backup, and it, 2 copies are made. One goes to him, one goes to me. So if the main office fails, the place that's getting backed up, we've got 2 offline copies that are a year old.
Mm-hmm.
And then every month, an offline copy gets made and delivered to the 2 locations.
Right.
And then after 12 months, we decide whether we're going to keep the annual or not for, discovery purposes or for whatever. Mm-hmm. And then we start recycling those drives after we test them. I'm big on testing. If you have a backup and you haven't tested it, it's
not a backup.
You don't have a backup. Yeah. And then you do, we have site to site backup. We have 2 locations, where if one site was destroyed, we could reverse over to the other one immediately. Now, if one's hacked and ransomwared and destroyed. That's the hard part because we don't know.
Right.
We try to stop it. We try to prevent that kind of thing from getting replicated. But a lot of these ransomwares will wait and lay low, and then they'll release after months. And so that's why you have to have a long tail of backups.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And data that doesn't belong on your network shouldn't be on your network. You should just archive it off and get rid of it because it just gets in the way of recovery.
Yeah.
It's just stuff to think about that you shouldn't have to think about.
This is all good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Backup's probably one of the most things. If you get backup right, you can survive almost anything.
All right. Now on to the clickbait, because what's better than a PornHub story? Really? Nothing.
Not much.
Nothing. Now, this is where you put the kids to bed. But if, for the teenagers and older, yes, there are websites on the internet that show naked people.
What?
So, here's the story. It's Pornhub blocks North Carolina and Montana over new age verification laws. Basically, Pornhub's taking the high road here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
This is an interesting one. So apparently North Carolina and Montana have implemented and passed a bill for age verification of any visitor of the website. So anybody who goes to an adult website and the legal language is even less
exact,
stringent as exact as an adult video site.
Okay.
This could include things like adult language is used on the site and that sort of stuff.
Wow.
But every time you visit, you have to have a system of verifying the person's ID. So that would mean that every website would have potentially pictures of your IDs and a process for verifying them.
Yeah, and in these websites, the lure of these websites, besides the prurient interest, is that you can be anonymous.
Yes.
Nobody wants to publicize what they go do in their private time, right? Online.
I think that's why everybody was scrambling for the Epstein list today.
Oh my God, that was crazy. Did you hear that?
Oh my gosh, the list of people.
So Jeffrey Epstein.
They had to use their age verification card when they got on the island.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Epstein, the list of people that were quote unquote involved, or not necessarily directly involved, but
on the island,
people that went to the parties. Yeah, was released today.
People like Stephen Hawking is on that list.
What?
Yeah,
really?
Stephen Hawking is on the list. Oh yeah, it's an interesting read.
So there you go. Well, Stephen Hawking, what use would he have with a prostitute, right? So, there are people that hung out with Jeffrey Epstein that obviously didn't partake thereof.
Or might not have known. I don't know.
Or might not have known.
He seems like he wasn't a secretive person about what he was, but...
No. But, then there are people who are like, party? Huh? Bill Clinton. I'm going to go to a party.
Prince, whatever his name, Andrew.
Yeah. Whatever.
So coming back to this though.
Yeah. Okay.
So this would require them to verify age, and this causes a bunch of problems. First off, you're showing your government issued ID potentially to a website, which there are plenty of websites that I trust that I don't want to show my government issue ID to.
Sure.
That's for sure, because I don't know how they're going to handle the data or what they're going to do with it. So that's one thing. B, the other thing is, because it's only in certain states, what it will force the users in Utah to do or in Montana is to VPN out of the state,
right,
and then start using these sites.
Right.
Well, the problem there is they're still beholden to the law because it's still a citizen of that particular state. So people could still get in trouble for it. So then the only decision would be Montana and Utah can say, North Carolina and Montana could just say, we're just going to block VPNs entirely. We won't allow them. Right. And now you're running into all sorts of sort of policing of the internet and that sort of stuff. So yeah, this will be an interesting.
It worked for Iran
story to see what happens.
North Korea, they get by fine. Without VPNs. Oh wait,
Montana,
no, they don't.
The new North Korea. Yeah. So it's an interesting. I am fully for protecting children on the internet.
Yep.
Right.
Me too.
And making sure they don't get access to content they shouldn't get access to. We're all parents.
Yeah, but blocking VPNs, let's get it straight. Blocking VPNs legally in a state, in the United States, would deindustrialize that state. Every single business would move out of that state that had information technology because it's a ridiculous measure.
You can't VPN in, you can't VPN out. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Well, because that would mean that VPN is a valid security measure for business.
That's right.
Yep.
It's not just for obscuring your identity. I mean, you need a VPN to communicate with your back end from an outside of the network.
Yeah. So the problem is we have people who don't understand technology making laws about technology.
Right.
I'm sure their heads or their hearts are in the right place. Like, I get it, protecting children. There's a lot of predators out there and grooming and all sorts of weird stuff that happens on the internet.
Not
but
good.
This may not be the thing that helps. So.
How does this protect any of that stuff?
I think
unless they're having the person like turn their camera on, show their ID with their face next to it.
Yeah.
And then there's also, well, what if they just have an image or a video that they can show? I mean, there's so many ways around this.
so. Now you have to have, oh yeah, absolutely. It seems
It's a charade.
Yeah.
right, but it also seems like one of those laws you put in place where if you do, let's say you do want to slam someone like Pornhub just for the lulz, right? Now you have a law in place where you can be like, oh yeah, you violated this 10,000 times in our state. You owe us $50 million.
I think
right?
it's up to the parents to have a blacklist or a whitelist in their Wi-Fi. You know, just like when you go to a hotel or you're on an airplane, if you've ever tried to navigate somewhere where they didn't want you to go, they say, no, you can't go there.
Right.
You know, it's the same idea. But that's responsibility as part of parenting in the 2020s.
Yeah. If I was the business owner, the parent company of Pornhub, which I'm not, and I wouldn't be in that business probably, but I would say this is the way I'd go as well.
Yeah.
I'd just say nope, not playing, because it also sounds like it's very fraught. It sounds like it's a very expensive tax.
Boy, that was about as political as we've ever gotten on this show, isn't it?
I know.
Leave it to Pornhub to push the issue.
We can talk about wars. Politics don't come into that.
I
but
mean,
Pornhub,
I just had a little simple joke about glitter on your balls. I mean, that's
not mine, yours. Let's be clear.
Let's be clear.
And that's a wrap. On that note. All right, kids. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.